Hello, everyone. Once again, this is Greg Westwood from Felons with a Future on our podcast, Road to Freedom, No More Chains. Today we're going to be talking with one of our board directors of Felons of the Future, Martin Boyd from Philadelphia. He's also a restored citizen who's come home and done, done some positive things in the community because, as we like what we try to do on this show and on this channel, on this platform, and on this podcast is talk to restored citizens who've come home and are doing positive things in the community, not just the ones who are restored citizens, as you've seen in some of our interviews, but the people who help us to get on, get on with our lives to stay on the right path. Um, as you know, Felons with a Future is a 12-week program that we've put together to help restored citizens come home and become business owners. Our curriculum is based around, helping them become entrepreneurs, business owners, and also work on the trauma that has caused them to go to the life of crime. More than that, also the trauma that they heal from the trauma that we've gone through being in a life of crime for years, and also the trauma that we've gone through once we were incarcerated, and then that trauma that we go through trying to readjust back to society. So, you know, if you want any more information about what Felons with a Future does or where to find us, you can always find us on our website, felonswithafuture.org, or you can get in touch with us at felonswithafuture@gmail.com. So, Martin, why don't you make a little introduction to the world? Let us know who you are and what got you here.
Well, I never do this. Normally, I don't do this, and that is the introduction part. I normally never introduce myself titled out, and I realize I'm sitting in here in my house, brother. We in the sort of background is we getting rehab, and I always introduce myself as Martin Boyd. I do, but for the purpose of this interview and for the impact of being a felon, I'm going to introduce myself with my title, which is the Reverend Martin Boyd, and so I appreciate the opportunity, man. I love and respect you. I'm excited about the movement. I'm encouraged to participate in it.
Thank you, man. So, like I know a little bit about your story, so, and like I say, one thing that we don't focus on here is, the nature of the crime or anything like that, but we do talk about, the important thing of what have we done to restore, to become a restored citizen, some of the pitfalls that we've gone through and we've navigated through, and the important people who've helped, helped us out in that transition. Because, like one thing that we like to help people know is that we can't do this by ourselves. And everybody's had like there's a couple people that have played a big part in my life to be where I'm at. One of them was my counselor when I was in jail. He now serves as my unofficial mentor, Lamont Sapp, and stuff like that. So talk about some of the things that you've done in the community and some of the people that have been important to help you get to where you are at now, Martin.
I want to. I don't want to. I want to kind of start in the rhythm of it and not jump in the middle of it, because I want to say the incarceration place for me, it was. You ever run? You're going through your life and you just get caught up in a series of trouble. I'm not a one time. I wish I was a one time incarcerated guy and that was it. But I'm one of them. I'm one of them 21 arrest guys. So. And they just range from just being juvenile mischief into drug offense and weapons offense, and so I don't have any problem. I haven't paid my debt to society.
Right.
I want to talk about some of the things that I've learned, and I kind of went through that, and the thing that I noticed that I was becoming hopeless. Because if you go back and you go back and you go back and they doubling down on the punishment, and there's no redemptive quality to it. You do the time, and when you get out, we really don't know a lot. See, I didn't know a lot of people that been through what I've been through that made it out. So I knew the people that was into what I was into,
right.
And so and I'm gonna get there, but I want to say I got out. 2009, 10. I was released, and I got released, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I stood there, and the dilemma that I had was this. I stood there, and you get in trouble enough times. You got I had a parole officer, you got the probation officer, you got your fines in your courts, you got your child support, you got all of your backed up stuff. So what I felt like I had, the system had set it up where I came out and I was saddled with debt that rivaled a mortgage or something. And everybody that I was indebted to, you got to pick your poison, because if you don't pay the PO, you risk going back.
Going back, right.
If you don't pay the child support, you risk you losing your livelihood. And it was so those kind of things. And I just kind of put one foot forward in front of the other, man, and decided that I was going to turn my life over to God and let him orchestrate what he needed to orchestrate. And I was afraid. I never knew that I was going to actually be on a path that was going to be a pass for me for real. I was afraid. I was afraid that I knew nothing else. I was afraid that it was always going to turn out the way it always turned out. I was afraid that doors was going to get shut in my face. I was afraid that I couldn't make it. I was afraid, and I was afraid because I was conditioned to be afraid. And so, I got out, man, and I went to work in the field, and I was a program director for a program. And I just, I was in prayer one day, Greg, and the Lord was like, stop working and start this program. And I was like, stop working. I stopped working. I ain't gonna be able to pay the child support, and I ain't gonna be able to pay the fines and costs, and I ain't gonna be able to, like, I didn't see not to stop working. And lo and behold, here 6 years later, I used to volunteer at this place. I would go there. It was for federal people coming from the state penitentiary in Pennsylvania. I would go there every week and do a group for them. This light life skill group.
Right, sort of like
job ready.
Sort of like the program, that we
right. But it wasn't structured. It was just a motivational thing. Go in there and give them a hope shot. At the time, I didn't even realize that I had hope yet. I told you I was afraid. I was putting one foot in front of the other, just doing the next right thing that was in front of me. And so, but that building, the reason why I'm sharing that story with you, because that building, 2 years after I went in there to do those interviews, that was the first building that we purchased for our program. So it was a 64 bed facility, and it was our second building that we purchased. But I had history with the building, and I only knew that it came on the market because I was going in there volunteering, and so that's what we do in the community. We have a program, and we treat men with dignity and respect. And the most important thing is giving people a hope shot once they get from release behind the bars.
And the program that you run, what's like the success rate of people, when they come home or when they get involved with them not returning back to the lifestyle and stuff like that?
So Drexel University does our outcomes. The success rate is 63%
That's a good rate.
Of people that complete the program. That means you come in, you do the whole program, and those, the DNA recovery, the drug and alcohol portion, and then the housing portion. Those people are 63% less likely in 3 years to go back to prison. We don't do outcomes with everybody that come through the door, because then the outcomes would be demoralizing and low.
Right,
We say we're going to do outcomes from people that participated in the breadth of the program, opposed to somebody just came, they really wasn't ready, they was there for a month. And so you start adding that kind of stuff up in it, it clouds it up.
Right, and that's the thing about statistics. That's the same thing like with Felons for the Future. We're looking at the ones that complete, like the other reentry programs that we've connected with here in Dayton. That's what we're looking at, the ones who completed. Because like you say, there's some people who show up just because they PO tell them and they ain't ready. There's some people who's just like anything else until you're ready, and that can be demoralizing. And we already working with the stigma of
Hmm.
coming home, and people already think that we should
Hmm.
rot away in jail, that we're terrible people, and not realizing that any one of us as human beings are one mistake away from being where we were.
Absolutely.
Right. So, like, what other things, like you said, I know that you're a man of the cloth, but I also know that you do that in the community. What are some of the goals that you've been reaching, that you had when you were? Because see, I like what I'm getting at is what we're doing with Felons with the Future. That was a dream of mine when I was incarcerated. Because like I found myself like, how did I get to this place? I knew how I got there, but you know what I'm saying. But I had a decent upbringing. I had a trade, prior to me going in. I had all of these things going for me, but I could not break the cycle of getting out the lifestyle. And I remember laying on that rack, man, next to the next to the bathroom in a 64-man bay in penitentiary. And I'm thinking, how did I really get here? And what could get me from not coming back to places? And this is where the dream started. So,
Hmm.
and it became a goal, and now it's a fruition. So, what were some of your goals that you had when you were incarcerated to help you get to the place that you are now?
So mine were a little different. I had goals of regaining my career, which is a chemical engineer, and I wanted to get back to that. I wanted to make as much money as I could make. I would have, and I'm just being honest,
Yeah,
but
that's what.
I had something that was motivating.
Right.
And so and I used to have all these things. I tried a lot of stuff. One of the major motivations I had was I wanted to start a sports talk show.
Okay.
So the sports talk show, I had the place, I had the plan, I had the people, and that's all I wanted to do when I got out. And then once I got out, I stuff started to morph. I started to like morph into it. And so when I got to the place where you talking about you was at, where God put that in your spirit, when I got to that place, I it was a burden on me. It was a burden. In other words, my mind was consumed with it, and it was nothing that was going to replace it. It was an itch that had to be scratched. And try as I may, or try as I might, because I did try to walk away from it, saying this is overwhelming. I don't have the resources. God, this cannot be you possibly calling me to do this. You talking about a dude that, I got out, and I had DNA issues I had to deal with. And so I got out, my whole life was about $102 every other week and $205 in food stamps every month. And so you are telling me that that you're gonna give me a program and put a few $1,000,000 in our budget, and how you gonna allow me, how? So in other words, I just couldn't understand it, didn't believe it, and I kind of walked into it. And I made some crazy mistakes too, Greg. And I like to say that all the mistakes that I made, they were money driven mistakes,
Right.
because I had hope. And I want to say this, man, that it is no better feeling to be in position, and then people that I met while I was in the building, when I was incarcerated. I don't like to see anybody come to us needing help, but I know that when they see me, they're like, this dude was on my block. This
Right.
dude
Right.
was,
Right.
he went to chow with me, and I say, listen, I look like an accountant. I'm dressed like an accountant now. I got on sweats now, but I'm suited up. So I'm dressed like an accountant now. But I did not always look like this. And when you meet people that know that, those people they get a different type of hope shot.
Right.
And so I'm encouraged about that.
And like you said something. important talking about the limited resources you have. Because see, like I know sometimes the biggest obstacle for people who have dreams and who have, ambitions to do something, they think that they have to have a lot of money to do it. As you know, starting this program, man, we started this with no money. The startup all came from my funds. We've raised a few dollars. We still ain't got a lot of money, but you know what I'm saying? And so when you hit on that about, you starting it, and, you were still getting $102 or whatever, $250, I mean, $205 food stamp. That's important for our listeners to understand that you don't need the resources you need, because see, it's about the partnerships that you make here. Talk about some of the partnerships that you've had formed, of getting your organization off the ground, Martin.
So let me say this first. With hope comes, in other words, if God gave it to you, he this is what stuff that I learned. If he bring you to or send you to something that needs $100,000 worth of provision, he's going to make sure that he provides you. He doesn't only work in us the will to do something. He works in us the capability to also get it done. But to your point, partnerships and just people sewing into me. Here's a story that when me and my wife, we went through our pre-marriage counseling, right? And so we went through the whole counseling thing. And then so the doctor that did our counseling, he looks at me and he says, well, what's the holdup? He like, what's the holdup? Why y'all want to get married? And for the first time, I looked at him and, we had been building a relationship. We was in there for maybe 7 months. And I told him, I said, it's money. Finances is the problem because I don't have it. And I really, she didn't ask me for this kind of wedding or this kind of elaborate thing, but I got that in my mind. And so money is the holdup. And this is what he told me. He said, tell people that love you what you want to do and watch how they sow into you. And when we made I proposed and we had a date and she didn't even have a ring. And listen, somebody donated the cake, the facility, the caterer, the flowers. It was just insane, right? And what I've learned with the program part of it is it was a lot of stuff that I didn't know. And I felt like people had the information and wouldn't give it to me. Not everybody, but it was a few. Right. And so what it did for me is, because once it's the itch that you got to scratch, that you got to go on with it. You can't stop. But what it did for me was, and the reason why partnership and I accepted the position to be on the board of Felons with a Future for this is because God sent so many people in my life to just sow into me. I'm talking about serious people sowed into me. Listen, I would need 30, 40,000 and would need this. And he would send somebody with it. I would need resources and information and favor. He would make sure I got it. So in response to that, this was my thing to the Lord. God, if you ever put me in position, I will stay with a spiritual posture that will give what you gave to me away immediately. I will make it easier for the next person you call or burden with this type of disposition. It just so happens to be that because I'm a felon myself, I have a particular interest in other felons. Right. Because I'm a person in recovery, I have a particular interest for people in recovery. Right. And because me and you and I know, Greg, that we belong to an organization that the one of the mantras or mottos of the organization, one of the foundational things is this: you can only keep what you have by giving it away. And so that is the reason why I'm burdened and passionate and will work with any person, whether you're coming out of prison or not. I just happen to be suited best to work with people that come from out of prison because I've dealt with some of the same issues that they're going to deal with.
Right. And that's important. Like I remember Martin, man, just the experiences. That's why, like the board of directors that that you sit on is made up of half of people who are or ex-felons or returning, citizens, and have professionals, because we need the people, that have helped us, like I talked about Mr. Sapp, even though he's an ex-offender too himself, and now he runs the recovery department for Department of Corrections from like 7, 8 different penitentiaries now, you know what I mean? But we also needed the professional people who believed in us, but also was the face, the restore citizens. Because like from my experience, if I know that you've been through where I've been through, and you're doing something, that gives me the hope, other than just somebody who opens up a book. And I'm not knocking them. Don't get me wrong. I'm not, by no means am I not, because education is important. But
Mm-hmm.
but the education that a person like me received came from, and that's where that's where I can relate to the where people like us can relate to the people that we deal with and we work with, and they
Mm-hmm.
understand a lot better, you know. So like like other than what I'm saying, being a man of the cloth in your organization, what other things? Because I know that some of the things I know personally that you do, that you guys go over there in Philadelphia, North Philly, and places like that, and make sure those alleyways are cleaned up in the community. Why is that important for us to get back into our communities and do simple stuff like make sure those alleyways and those streets are clean and everything like that?
Because blight and trash magnifies and help the negative energy stay alive.
That's right.
And so we looked at our city, and I don't know how it is in Dayton, but here the city used to be responsible for the alleys and the driveways. The cities used to be responsible for those. In other words, they used to be responsible for the maintenance and the cleaning up. So it would never be trash, just alley would be trashed or a driveway would be just trash, because the city was responsible for that particular portion of property. Of maybe 20 years ago, one of those quiet moves that the political environment makes, and they know not to tell the citizens because the citizens go crazy, but it was one of those quiet times where they just took back the responsibility and made the responsibility of the homeowner to keep the lot and the alleyways done. So what happens? People, runners start to come in, crime start to come in, and people started to throw stuff in the alley, and they're used to putting it in there, and they're used to somebody picking it up. But over years, nobody come cut the trees, nobody come cut the weeds. The weeds then turned into little trees. The trash has just become a dumping site. It's just a nasty environment, and it doesn't do anything for the psychological health of any person to look at that on a daily basis and connect that with some hope and some life. And so what we did was we looked around the city, and it was a project that we decided that we wanted to do. We started out just wanting to do it because my grandmom, I didn't want her to go into the backyard and not be able to see down the alley, nor did I want anything to happen to her. I wanted it to be like it was when I was a kid. You could walk through the alley, and the alley was lit up like the street in front of it. And the driveways was the same way. And that had left. And so we found the grant. We worked with one of the state reps here in South Philadelphia, State Rep Jordan Harrison and Gerald Johnson's chief of staff, and both of these guys are my friends, and I love them, and they found a way for us to do this, and we went and we knocked down every lot, every alley. Just cleaned up, and we told the neighbors what we was coming to do. We told them that we was going to do the heavy lifting, and all they had to do was the maintenance and and maintain it. And so it was a self-esteem drive for us, and we get ready to do another one. And actually, the one that we did was in South Philly and Southwest Philly, and the one we get ready to do now is actually in West Philly. which is my neighborhood where I grew up.
Okay.
And so it's a redemption.
Right.
Is a what you call that? Is a it's an amends thing for me, man.
Right.
It's an amends. Yeah.
Yeah. And cause see that's something that we down the road, it's more people don't realize. Organizations like what we have is more than just working with that one restored citizen. Cause see, like I was on a call earlier today, and with a brother that that's also in the reentry field and everything. And what people don't realize is like when we go away, everybody wants to talk about just that offender, the felon, that felon, but they don't realize us going away affects like 4 different lives. And so when we come home and we give back, we're also giving back. That one life is giving back to at least 4 different people, not just our family, our kids. So when we become better parents and everything, but like what you're doing in community. So that's important. That's what these are the things that like we like to talk about on here. The things, the community involvement, and like when I heard you talk about being friends with the state rep, it still is. Just to hear that and to wrap our minds around it, that I'm hoping that the people listening to this get hope, like no matter where they've gone, here it is, this man like he said, multiple times in and out of jail, sitting at the table with state representatives. A person like me, multiple times in and out of jail, ran for public office. You know what I'm saying? Like that.
Hey, let me give you this. Let me give this hope shout out. Not only with the rep, with city council, and I'm talking about people that's in my phone. And one of the high marks, or one of the kind of benchmark things that happened, was that the state legislator they were writing a bill. And the bill was a bill to automatically expunge your record after 10 years, because they realized, I'm talking about this state rep is all the way in touch with what bothers us or what holds us back.
Right.
So this is the bill. The bill was it was 2 bills. The state rep, his bill was after 10 years, clean slate. It was a clean slate bill. So after 10 years, after 7 years, you paid all your fines, your restitutions, you ain't been in trouble for 7 years, your record automatically is expunged. Now, I'm not talking about all records. I'm talking, so you got a murder, that's not getting expunged. You got sex offense, that's not getting expunged. You got rapes, that's not getting expunged. But just the nuisance crimes that people get into that really would benefit from a second chance. So he wrote the legislation up for that. And I was so just godly proud of it. And then the other piece of legislation that they did was ban the box. Stop asking people for whether they're a convicted criminal, because what they're doing, and I don't want to make this political, but what they're doing is a Republican tactic that does this. You already was convicted. You paid your debt to society. You paid your time debt, and you paid your restitutional fiscal debt. And so every time you don't expunge the record, you're playing double jeopardy, because you not listen. If I did the crime, I paid the time, I did all of that, then why am I still being punished on a different level for the same thing that I supposedly already paid for? And so what that did was move all that out the way. The ban the box, plus your thing get automatically expunged. And we had the building. So the state rep came, the governor of Pennsylvania, Wolf, and the state rep, the director of all prisons, the director of probation and parole. And he talking about, they come to my program. We had a whole news. So I know what God could do. Right. What he could do with if you and none of this would have happened, Greg, if I would have came out and didn't have any hope, or came out, because at the end of the day, every person that's going to get redeemed through this process got to say to their mind, I already know what that side look like. I already know what the consequences is. I already know what all it is. So the one thing I have to do is don't go back. So I got to
Right.
stop doing the stuff that make me go back so I can have an opportunity or a chance to see what's in front of me.
And that's the whole thing, that the hope that you talk about. And a lot of times our minds have just that slither of hope, but we need people to help fan that flame. And that's the beauty. Like, a lot of people are starting to understand what our program that that you sit on the board with, that we're doing, is really about. Even though we're helping restore citizens, become business owners, and help pay for their business license and stuff like that. We're the focus of the 12-week program is working on their thinking, giving them that hope. Because see, like, it would be a travesty to just teach them how to start their own business when we aren't giving them the skills that when they find their way, okay, this door isn't open. First thing I want to do is go back to that lifestyle. So like the healing process, like I said at the beginning, and I always talk about, we talk, me and Brandon, who helped formulate the curriculum. We talk a lot about the healing of the trauma. Because I'm pretty sure you didn't wake up as a 4-year-old kid and say, hey, Martin, I want to become a criminal. I want to go to prison. There was some trauma that led us to the lifestyle. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. First, let me say this, that I like what we're doing here, because, and this is just for anybody that asks, don't understand what we're doing. Well, why you got people that you want to talk to them? Why you got to have all this? Because hope.
That's right.
HOPE, the acronym for hope, how you give it away. Hearing other people's experience. This is the reason why we got to talk about it. This is the reason why we have to share it. This is the reason. And that's a great way to segue hope to this trauma. And so I was traumatized as a child. And some part of me made it up in my mind that I wasn't going to ever let nobody, family or I was in the community, ever hurt me again. And because I was so vulnerable and so emotional and so hurt, I created a figure.
Right.
I took the subculture and created a person, a face, a mask, a costume, a alternative reality. But all of that was to make sure nobody don't mess with me.
Again, right.
And what it did was it caused me to be submerged in a criminal culture. And then once you get in the criminal culture, now you're stuck with that stigma, because you can't just tell them how you feeling. You can't tell them that you didn't like how you was raised as a child. You can't tell them that somebody said something to hurt your feelings. Everything is about being tough.
Right.
And so what I had developed is, I like to tell people, I said, listen, I lived in a world of fantasy, but the fantasy world that I lived in absolutely sent me to jail. And it absolutely created a PP number, 650-278. And it absolutely, although it was fantasy and although I walked away from it, if I decide to get goofy now, it will be reactivated and the fantasy will become another reality that it takes me all this time to get away from. So I don't want to do none of that. I want to deal with the trauma, go back to the original scene of the crime, nurse the little boy that I abandoned, stop telling myself and programming my thinking into believing that something was all that when it wasn't none of that. And be honest enough with my emotions to walk through the door of emotional uncertainty and say, God, whatever it is, show me how to feel it, because I didn't want to feel it.
Right. And and that's important thing to realize. See, like when like being out there in that lifestyle, like you said, I could never tell nobody, man, I don't really want to be it. Because like after I developed this person that I had to develop to be out in that lifestyle, and the stigma, what I'm saying, of this reputation that I had to keep on building on it till sooner or later I lost who I was. And like, the beauty of like our curriculum, it gets us back in touch with that person that we abandoned because of the trauma. And see, what people don't realize is, there's so many, the trauma with people who have been in a lifestyle and been in the penitentiary is so deep. Because like I said, there's so many different sets of trauma. It's that one trauma, the original trauma that sent us to the lifestyle. Then it's that trauma that we went through all, and you know what I'm saying, being on the block when I really didn't want to be there, the violence that goes on with that, the trauma that's, that we incur while we're in the lifestyle, the trauma of being incarcerated, because that's traumatizing, man. You know what I mean? Even if nothing like physical ever happened to you, just the mind games is traumatizing, because man, it is, what I'm saying, isn't meant to be behind bars like that. Now, there's some people, now don't get it twisted. There's some people that I honestly believe need to be incarcerated, you know what I'm saying? And, and then, you know what I'm saying? But, I still think that, they might have a shot too, and then it's the trauma of coming home, like you were talking about, and what we're working on outside of our classroom setting is like, I paid my debt to society. Why am I still being treated like a third, not even a second class, a third class citizen? Tell me to get a job, but I can't make enough money to feed my family. Now I'm dealing with this trauma. Like, how do I make ends meet without going back to the lifestyle and doing that, and still making sure that my kid isn't, crying at night because they're hungry, So all that different levels of trauma that are dumped on us, is a lot of healing that needs to be done. And we understand it's not going to take a 12-week course to do it. That's why it's a 2-year wraparound, and they can still stay involved. And one of the things that, we require them when they finish is that they come back and mentor somebody too. Because if it wasn't for the mentorship program, Martin, like what we do, I wouldn't be here. You remember sitting in your car and I told you this is what I wanted to do, and you helped me out by just sharing your experiences and how you started your organization.
Listen to me, Greg. You hit two key points. You hit two very important points. The first point you hit that was very important, insightful, was being traumatized to get yourself in trouble. And then once you got into the environment, it further traumatized you. And everything is about going back, nurturing the little guy that was traumatized. I'm going to share this story with you. I was 17, and so if you're 17 in this city and you do something, you got arrested a few times, they got something called certification, where they'll certify you as an adult, and you'll be today when they do it, they put you on a juvenile block inside the adult prison. But back then when I got it, when they did it to me, I was in the juvenile detention center on the security side. And so, but we had to go to court we had to go to court at City Hall. So we go to court, and when you got down there to City Hall, when you got down there to the courtroom, they would put us in this see-through plexiglass bubble that was right across the street, that was right, and the sheriff desk was right, like, this the bubble, and that's the desk. So they can monitor you, because they knew that they had juveniles in an environment with the adults. So the last thing you want is the juvenile to get violated by one of the adults. They just can't do that. And then, so what happened was, if you get sentenced, they put you in the bubble with us until the sheriff come get you to take you back to wherever jail you was at and send you upstate. So this dude came in. Oh, and here's another thing: if you was gay or transvestite, they put you in that bubble as well, because they don't want nothing be going on in the back. So listen, I'm in there, me, like 4 or 5 of my homies that got certified, and they try to make these adult cases that we got, or he get 7.5 to 15. But I'm 17 years old. 7.5 to 15 sound like a life sentence to me at the time. So Greg, he comes in, he tells us what kind of time he got, and he looks at the date. He looks at the dude. He dressed like a lady. So I'm 17. None of this is not normal. And he start talking to him, and the dude start talking, and then he tell 2 of my homies. He say it was benches, like bench Then you could sit on this bench. There was a bench right there. There was a bench right there. Then the guard booth was right there. He told two of my homies, he sat on the bench this way. The guy sat on the one that was dressed like a lady sat on the bench this way. One of my homies sat here, the other one sat there, and it was in the wintertime. We took our coats that they gave us. You got the, little junior penitentiary uniforms.
Right.
And he said, put the coat like this. So you can, so when the guard look ahead, they look like they just was going like this, so he can't see. And then he told me and my other homie was on this side. He told us to sit over there. He pulled this joint out, and the dude gave him a blowjob right in the cell with us, right in front of my face. I never seen nothing like this in my life, and it traumatized me.
Right.
And what I did with the trauma is I disguised it, because I knew that I couldn't go back to the youth study center and go up in the thing with all your homies from around the city and everybody got to act tough. And you in the room saying you just seen something that blew your emotional mind.
Right.
So what we had to do was laugh about it and act like it was a joke. And we were tough enough to bear something that normal children shouldn't be bearing. And I think about how that, and I think about the blankness that, and what that did to me, and it caused me to function in a very unhumane way.
Right.
And so this process, life and the recovery processes, helped me become humane again, because it's something wrong with you if you could stand in front of the judge and he could tell you how much time he will give you, and you walk away and don't let him see you sweat. Don't let him see you blink. Don't let, but the inside of you, you get ready to abandon your children. You get ready to abandon your family. You get ready to abandon your community. You get ready to make stuff hard for people. You get ready to be absent from humanity for a minute. And you cannot let nobody let you see you sweat. You can't let the judge see you sweat. You can't let the DA see you sweat. You can't let the people that's in the courtroom that you don't even know, but you're trying to keep up an image because you don't want nobody talking to you, even though you don't even know. And so, but that piece right there, I was supposed to leave out of there and go get some counseling. And I was supposed to go get some help. And I was supposed to get some type of assistance on processing an event that blew my little 17-year-old mind.
And we were talking about that, and that's the one thing that, we the mental health issues and everything like that. Because it's taboo in the Black community of getting help, counseling. We're not supposed to do that. That makes you weak and all that. And we got to realize, man, most of us grow up with PTSD before we even realize, before we're even 10 years old. We're hearing the gunshots all day. We're seeing the violence in our neighborhood, let alone what might be going on behind closed doors. And we're told that what happens in this house stays in here.
You know
what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So these are the, like when we talk about the original traumas that led us to the lifestyle, because, as you were talking about as a 17-year-old kid, then we got the 10-year-olds who going to bed, like in one story, going to bed hungry, mom doing the best that she can, but she can't feed two people off of what she got to do and all of that stuff, you know what I mean? And seeing that and that trauma of not, and then you got this kid down the street or when you going to school that they're living way better than you, and you wondering what's wrong with you. There's a saying that this brother that I follow on YouTube and everything, Philippe Matthews, talks about. We got to stop asking us what's wrong with us, and start saying what's wrong with us. Something happened to us.
No, what happened to you?
And that's
I'm saying stop what's wrong with you and start asking them. That's trauma informed. Yeah. What happened to you, man?
What happened?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the important thing, and that's one of those main questions that we ask in our class is like, what happened to you? And get you in touch with it to be able to see, like I say, it's taboo in the Black community, and then also it's taboo in the recovery. I mean, not in the recovery, but in the reentry community. For people who don't go through programs like the ones that we have set up to talk about what happened to you. But we understand that that's where the healing comes from. And once I get the healing, I can go back into that same community and start helping other people heal. Just by, if it's just me showing up and doing simple stuff like you guys do, go clean up your neighborhood. Because you're like, One of the things that one of the things that we're looking at, I work with different reentries and different criminal justice systems. Reform system programs here, and one of the ones that we're talking about is like how come the question we always ask, if I pay my debt to society, I have to tell I can't live like I can't live in certain neighborhoods, even if my money says I can. Certain people won't rent to me because what I'm saying, and it's legal for them to discriminate for that. How come I can't have certain jobs? Because like removing the box, there's certain places that we've gotten that taken care of here. Removing the box off the applications. How come I can't have a job? What I'm saying, that's going, because of this, because these are some of the things that the roadblocks that a lot of ex-offenders have to face, and we're trying to work on that, the criminal justice reform. I see you wanted to say something. Go ahead now.
So I wanted to say, first of all, what with Felons for the Future, what they're doing is, what we're attempting to do is create an environment safe enough for people to come in and take off the costume,
right,
and deal with the issue or the trauma. The reason why it's difficult for us to do that, because the trauma is reinforced by what we see. Again, I don't want to make this political, because it's not.
You can, because we know that's what the game is.
Right. So I don't want to make it political, it's not. But what do you do, and how do you process knowing that you just went to prison, sometimes for stuff you didn't do, and you do your time, you come out, you pay your debt to society, you following the rules of proper engagement, and you have a political environment that says to you, I know that you went to prison, I know that you paid your debt to society, but I want to punish you again, and I want to punish you again, and I want to punish you again. What do you do when you look at the president of the United States, and I'm talking about from an African-American perspective, and he say stuff to suburbia like, you don't have to worry, suburban housewives, you don't have to worry about like us moving into your neighborhood, as if we're just inherently. What do you do? I'm saying that because, Greg, something disenfranchises us so bad that we don't even receive the hope that we're given.
Right.
And I want a voice, and I want Felons with a Future to be the kind of voice that speaks over the other rhetoric that happens, or the other abuses that take place to us psychologically after we are released. We have to have a voice that speaks louder than that, because if we meeting with you once a month and they hearing that voice every day, then that voice that they hear the most is going to be the most overpowering.
Right.
So what I like about Felons with a Future is that we are going to create an environment that's healthy enough for people to put their defenses down, put the trauma down, put the person that you made up, the hardness that you've been mastering for years, to put that down. And let's make an environment safe enough so we can ask, because you can ask the question, but if the environment is not safe enough for you to ask the question, we want an environment where we can ask this question: what happened to you?
What happened to you?
Tell me where it all started. Tell me where the disconnect began. And if you don't create an environment that's healthy enough for that level of exposure, we'll be asking the question, what happened to you? And the denial will still be up. And so, and we definitely, to do this, we're going to, and I ain't talking, listen to me, I tell people that surge recovery, and we just opened a shelter, we're not good at everything. We're not the best program. But what we good at, we know we good at it.
That's right.
And what we're not good at, like people ask me, they say, what's the perfect demographic for you? I said, well, younger guys really don't work for us. But I do know programs that younger guys really work for, but they don't work for us. Well, who do you think fit your model the best? Well, people that's 40, 35, 40, 45. They done ganked some stuff. They done lost it. They done ganked it. They done lost it. Life has hit them, put them in a position where reality is real for them. And that's not to say that younger people can't make it. They ask me, who are the people that benefit the most? Young people don't benefit the most. Now, young people do benefit because the young guy came through there from Jersey a couple of years ago from Atlantic City, and he programmed the rest of the day. So
Right.
they do benefit. But if you ask me on the scale of it, most guys that take life a little serious because they getting up there, they got grandchildren. It's different. It's just a different thing.
Yeah.
So.
And that goes back to the partnerships that we were talking about. Because like one thing that we're not doing is we the housing. That's not our thing. We're just working on the mindset and teaching them how to become business owners. But we do have partnerships. You know what I'm saying? Partnerships. Like the housing. If you need housing, we can get you to that. The younger ones. Like even though we might go into the juveniles and talk to them. And what it is the hope. The hope. They might not be ready, but we can get them with the people who they can, start doing the preparation for. And that's one thing that, we always talk about. The partnerships are so important. One thing what I like about what we're doing is, like, check this out. We partner up with, what I'm saying, where everybody wants to be a chief all the time. And we encourage everybody to become a chief. But understand that you just got to be the chief of your tribe instead of trying to be the chief of all tribes.
Absolutely.
That's the beauty of what we're doing, man. And Martin, like, man, I want to thank you, man. If anybody in the Philadelphia area wanted to get in touch with you about, as far as like, your organization, what's the email or what's the web address that they could find you guys at? And I will put it on the in our description, so people can get in touch with you.
So they would email me at Martin, MARTINB, at surgerecovery.org. Or they would email Surge 1712, Surge Recovery 1712 at gmail.com. Those are the ways that you get into us. With email, of course, we have a website, Surge Recovery. It is a website, and our referral process. You know what? You can call us, and you can call us, and if you want to transition you somewhere, you think you need a whole different environment change, we'll bring people from Ohio, from all around the country, because people do come to us from all around the country, and all our beds are funded, so you'll be able to stay there. If you start on the shelter side, you get 6 months, and you can transition to the recovery side. We give you another 6 months, so you get a year. You can stay there for a year, and if you come straight in on the recovery side, you only get 6 months.
So that's surgerecovery.org or .com?
No, all nonprofits are .org.
That's right. See, I'll make sure they know that, man. We
Absolutely.
that's a tidbit that we're giving them, that we're teaching our business class here right now.
Yeah.
So like I will have that. I will have all that in the chat. I mean, not in the chat, but when we get ready, post this on social media. That way, if anybody wants to get involved in your area, because like we both said, when we understand, man, it's about doing our part well, not trying to be holistic, because even though we believe it's a holistic approach to help and build one person, so that one person can help build back the community. But we're not an all thing to all people thing. So it's the partnerships, and that's why I enjoy you being on our board and also partnering with us, because as you know, my goal and my vision as the CEO of this organization is to see this to grow to different places in the next 5 years. But we got to get it done here first. And
we're gonna get it done. We're gonna get it done. We're gonna get it done. Here's the wisdom I'm gonna leave you with. Me and you have had conversations. I shared this with you before. One of the things that messed me up was every time I looked at the political funding environment. In other words, God gave you the vision, Greg, and he gave the vision. He know what kind of provision you need for the vision, and he's going to also supply that to you. Every time I got frustrated is when I took my eyes out of faith or off God, who put the thing in me in the first place, and I put it on people because people upset me, they let me down, they wasn't reliable, and they would frustrate me. And God would remind me, whenever you look at them, you're gonna be frustrated. Whenever you look at me, I'm gonna give you the peace that's bigger than anything that you can see.
Right. I appreciate you taking the time, Martin, man. And once again, man, we will be having you on again, you know, down the road. And I'm looking forward to keep on building these partnerships, man. I love you much, my brother.
Love you back, bro. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, you have a good night.